हेलो नमस्ते सत श्री अकाल अस्सलाम वालेकुम भाई, दिस इज़ योर ओन चैनल अ लस्टी शेफ़। एंड आज जो वीडियो बन रहा है ना, बहुत ही अच्छा होने वाला है। बिकॉज़ मैं इस वीडियो में बातें कम करूँगा और जिस वीडियो में मैं कम बातें करता हूँ वो वीडियो बहुत ही अच्छा हो जाता है। असल में ये मजाक था। द ओरिजिनल रीज़न इज़ वी आर गोइंग टू अ वाइनरी, ब्रूरी एंड अ मेपल सिरप फार्म टुडे फ्रॉम द कॉलेज, so that we can see and learn that how they make those things. सारा अगर मैं वीडियो में कैप्चर ना भी कर पाऊँ कि प्रोसेस कैसे होता है, बिकॉज दैट विल मेक द वीडियो लेंदी, बट आई विल ट्राई टू कैप्चर कि क्या इम्पोर्टेंट है, क्या है और क्या फ़नी मोमेंट्स हम लोग कैप्चर कर पाते हैं। तो वीडियो में बने रहना, वीडियो को अभी से लाइक कर देना, बिकॉज फिर मैं दोबारा बोलूँगा नहीं पूरे वीडियो में। तो अभी सीधा चलते हैं और देखते हैं क्या होता है। हम लोग बस से जाएंगे एंड देन आफ्टर दैट पहले कहाँ जाते हैं, क्या करते हैं, वो सब आप लोगों को वीडियो में दिखेगा।
Set something on top of it. And then
ये क्या?
These are our food.
These are our foods which we are not interested to eat. अबे यार ये बंदा क्यों आ गया? वो भीड़ मारियो।
We have about 7 acres on the property in total. This acre is about 4 years old only. So it takes about 7 years before we start harvesting grapes off an acre. So you've got to, in this industry you got to plant, got to wait about 7-8 years, then you can start getting crop, then you start making wine. So it's a lot of investment up front. That machine here, that crushes into stems them. We basically put a big bin through and it goes into another bin. So the grapes get crushed into stem. Typically a little bit of nutrients for the yeast. You guys know what yeast is, right?
Yeah.
Right, it's fungus that needs nutrients to convert the sugars to alcohol. So we will crush into stem, check the chemistry, add yeast, and between a week to a month, the sugars are transformed into alcohol. And then we will press, somewhere in there. Anyway, there's a barrel press we press in, and then we take that wine, the new wine, we store it in a tank, and we rack it and we rack it and rack it, which means we take it out of a tank, take it off the sediment, put it in another tank. Do that about 3, 4, or 5 times, and then for whites, basically it gets filtered, bottled, labeled. There's a labeler and a shrink cap. So that in Ontario you have to have a shrink cap on it just to make sure it's secure so no one can tamper with it. So the process of making wine basically is just a lot of moving it from one tank to the next and waiting. In the other building you'll see I have wooden barrels, oak barrels, which we store some of the reds in. But in general, whites don't get oaked. I used to create an oaked Chardonnay and a Sauvignon Blanc. It's really good, but nobody wants to pay for it, so stop doing it. The consumer in this part of the world is looking at cheap wines from all over the world, and it's hard for this is a totally new region. We started it in 2005. How long you guys been here? Yeah,
7 months, 8.
8 months, a year, more than that? 9 months. So you're new, so you really probably don't know much about Ontario, but Ontario has a few major wine regions, Niagara, on the shore of Lake Erie, and there's somewhat of a wine region in Prince Edward County. It's just a difficult place to grow grapes. I personally don't think it's worth it because it's too much work. But we're very much like Niagara here. So we grow all the grapes Niagara grows: Cab Sauv, Cab Franc, Merlot, Sauvignon Blanc, Riesling, Chardonnay, and more. We have about 30 varieties. We pick it between September and November. If anybody's bored and want to come out and help to pick, you're welcome to come out anytime. We don't really accept volunteers, but you guys aren't really volunteers. You're the industry. So if you want to learn a little bit, you're always welcome to. We pick it, process it here, and then eventually bottle it. And then we'll eventually sell it. It's a month. And then if you're spraying for bugs, most of the industry sprays for bugs as well, because bugs like grapes. They also spray every couple of weeks. So there's a lot of chemicals on most of your food products, especially fruits. Now, from the point of view of the wine though, that bottle you saw, it gets analyzed through the LCBO, and any residues would get labeled and we would fail. So there's no residues in the wine in general. Copper does get through, so organic wines are a bit higher in copper. Right, so we do that. I have a mechanical weed badger for weeding in there. We mow the vineyard every week. You have to have airflow through the vineyard to keep the grapes from rotting. Okay? Question?
No.
Not sulfites that are in the wines. You got to keep sulfite in wine at a certain level. So your customers are going to ask you how much sulfite's in the wine sometimes. Is this sulfite free? Most wines are never sulfite free. You have to keep them at certain levels or they don't last long. So in here, pumps. I got a filter there. Wines in general are filtered through pulp, through a paper type of filter. That's mine there. Chemical lab. In there is the storage for the red wines in the barrels. You're welcome to pop in and pop out.
यहाँ पे रेड वाइन है ना सारी बैरल में? वाह, ना पास से पहली बार देख रहा हूँ भाई.
So that it just ages and oxidizes slightly. It's a micro oxidation in the barrel. So there's no answer to how long it should be minimum. Could be a month, could be 2 or 3 years, depending totally on the taste.
So if it's a new barrel, it can sit there a longer time.
Shorter, because it's
Shorter, okay.
A new barrel has lots of surface area of fresh tannins, oak tannins.
Yeah.
It'll absorb into the wine quickly. And then you get a really oaky taste, and you're either gonna have to blend that off or let it age longer to get rid of that. Tannins in wine are important.
वाइन टेस्टिंग, फूड टेस्टिंग क्या है मालूम नहीं. लेट्स गो इनसाइड टू हैव अ वाइन टेस्टिंग.
That they're made with, okay? So what grape do you think the Riesling wine is made with?
साउथ अफ्रीका.
Riesling. No, I'm not asking what color Riesling is. It's a trick question, okay? Most wines are named after the grape that they're made with. That's where those names come from. Cabernet Sauvignon is one grape. Cabernet Franc is another grape. Merlot is a grape. Shiraz is a grape. Those are red grapes. Then there's Riesling is a white grape. Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc. Those are all the names of the grapes. Pinot Grigio is the name of a grape as well. In France, it's called Pinot Blanc, right? Same grape, just different name. Okay, where was I? Lost my mind here. But something like a Pothic Red, that's not a grape.
It's how the yeast works with the stuff you stick into your wine to create mouthfeel and nose and taste. There's nothing we add to the wines, as Anne was saying. It's just purely the yeast working on the grapes.
Yeah.
And the grapes have to be, depending on how ripe the grapes, it'll be all totally different, right? Really ripe year, really hot year, different taste than cool year.
So what you get out of that is not to be confused by our tasting notes. So the first wine we're going to try is a white, as you can see. It is a Videl grape. Okay, so Videl is a very common grape in Ontario. It grows very well and it's fairly hardy. So everybody pick up a glass, and if I'm short, just let me know. My glass went down? Okay. Make sure everybody.
Don't worry, you don't have to drink if you don't want to.
Yeah. So when you swirl the wine, you want to swirl the wine in your glass, okay? Because when you're doing that, you are coating the inside of the glass with the wine, so that when you tip it up to your mouth to have a sip, you're going to get the full impact of the aroma, how it smells, and how it tastes. If you were to plug your nose and drink the wine, it's not easy, but you can. It tastes very different. So aroma and wine is really important, okay? So our tasting notes about this wine here says crisp off-white with tropical fruit. I think it says pear, honey. Don't forget there's a test. Yellow apples. Does anybody get any of that when you smell it? Pear, definitely. Okay, but it's not in there, right? This is chemistry. Actually, it's easy for me to, I just say it's magic, because wine is magic, right? Okay, so everybody can have a sip, but I just want to tell you, the best way
to getting outside of the college.
yes, and to be so close, right? So this is an off-dry wine. It is not a very sweet wine, but it's also not a super dry wine. Most of our wines are very dry because we don't like sweet, so we don't do sweet. We actually sold out of our ice wine. Yay, it's gone. So if you have any questions.
So who are new wine drinkers here, by the way? Right? I mean, I know you're in the industry and you've learned about it, but a lot of you, I don't know, do you drink historically or not in your country back?
We are whiskey person.
Whiskey persons, okay. Wine, yeah?
Beer.
Beer, yeah.
Where does most of the
I don't know. There are reds that are lighter, like the Beaujolais.
On our stove quickly, but you need to do most of the stuff away. So depending where you're working, you've got to be flexible. Is that what you're looking for?
absolutely wonderful. That's good. Okay, so we're going to, when you're finished your red wine, leave your glasses here on the bar.
That's it guys. I think I should keep it part 1 because वीडियो बहुत लंबा हो जाएगा. अभी हम लोग को मेपल सिरप के फार्म में जाना है, then एक ब्रूरी में भी जाना है, तो that video will become too big. So I will keep it as a part 1 and then part 2 will come after this video. So right now we are moving towards either a maple syrup farm or a brewery. So stay tuned for the part 2. And it was very nice to be here because मैं सुला वाइन गया था इंडिया में. That was also a good experience. But ये पहली बार किसी कैनेडियन वाइनरी में मैं आया हूँ. So overall it was a good experience and to be honest I would love to come back here and taste their wines. I am not a wine person, so मैंने कोई वाइन भी नहीं खरीदा. प्लस बाहर के शॉट्स में उतने शायद नहीं ले पाया. होपफुली शायद एक ड्रोन शॉट हम लोग ने लिया है तो शायद वीडियो में आ गया होगा या आने वाला होगा. बिकॉज द वेदर इज़ लाइक दिस, बाहर बारिश हो रही है. सो स्टे ट्यून्ड फॉर पार्ट 2 एंड टिल देन टेक केयर. थैंक यू सो मच. लिव एंड लेट लिव. पीस. रब रखा.